Quasi here, and in today's video I want to talk to you about the biggest mindset barrier that every single person who is on this personal development journey inevitably has. And I've struggled with this, and I've seen so many of my clients struggle with this. I've even gotten random questions that show me that people struggle with this a lot. So in this video I want to share with you what that biggest mindset barrier is, how to deal with it, and how to make sure that you become wildly successful by understanding how to regulate your own self. So stick around to the very end of this. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. So without further delay, let's go right ahead and get started. Now, in this video I want to talk to you about mindset barriers, mindset, and everyone on the personal development journey, what they go through. And what I see is that whenever you get started off in an area of your life like business, or in an area of your life like sports, let's say you pick up a new sport for the first time. What happens is you start to overthink every single little thing about it. So to give you an example, I picked up the sport of golf like 6 months ago, and I've gotten obsessed with it because it's so fun. You have these little clubs and you make an agreement to use the clubs to knock the ball to this hole that's like 300 yards away. And the more you play that sport, and as you get started, the more you start to overthink little things like, how do I shape the ball? How should I hit it? How should I get my arm? How should I get this? How should I get that? Instead of just following the motion and just flowing through it and feeling it, right? And this is exactly what happens when people get started in the personal development journey. So many of the questions I get are, how should I recite my affirmations so that they're the most effective? How should I meditate so that I can achieve my goals? Right? And while these are valid questions, you've got to understand that these are just the cherry on top of the cake. Right? They're just the top 5% that makes a difference. The real thing that makes the biggest difference is always the key principles behind the techniques, right? Like the core principles that make reality the way they are. Like in golf, it's always, how the shot feels to you. If you feel like you can make it, how confident you feel, making the shot, how comfortable you feel making the shot based on your practice. And that's what all the professional golf players talk about. They'll never make a golf shot unless they're at least 80% certain that they'll be able to get it where they want to get it. And so they won't experiment unless you're like this other golfer like Phil Mickelson, who just tries a lot of crazy shit. But anyway, in life it's kind of like that, right? Like you'll feel it. You'll intuitively know what the right thing to do is. Instead of overthinking about it, you've just got to go ahead and do it. So this leads me to the point of people being overly analytical about things. So many of the times we get overly analytical about the tiniest details. And we're like, should I do it this way or should I do it that way? But then when you take a step back and you really ask yourself, would this make that much of a difference? Would this really make that much of a difference? Is this worth the time that I'm spending overthinking about it? Is it really worth that? If it is, then do it. But in my journey, what I've always looked at is the 20%, right? It's part of the 80-20 rule, and it's called Pareto's Principle, if you haven't heard of it. And it essentially states that 20% of the actions that you take in your business and your life is producing 80% of the results. What is that 20% that I can focus on? In your business, you can focus on doing a multitude of things. You can go out to TikTok and make TikToks and advertise there. You can go to YouTube and advertise there. You can do email. You can do blogs. You can do Facebook ads. You can do so many of these things, right? There's so many different things you can master and get really good at. But what's the thing that is producing for you, for your own unique individual business and your style? And it feels very, very good to you. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It really resonates with you. What is that thing that really resonates with you that you would love to do and you get joy out of, and at the same time it also benefits other people? Just like me making this YouTube video, right? There's a reason I'm not on TikTok or all other social media platforms, and all of those work. Just like meditating in several different ways with your legs crooked and stuff will work. But what's that thing that you do enjoy doing, but at the same time It's effective. It's producing 80% of the results. Double down on that. Master that before you move on to anything else. So the biggest mindset barrier that every single person on the personal development, on the self-help journey goes through is overthinking. Overthinking the little things, right? And I think I've heard someone say this. It's majoring in minor activities. Doing the things that don't move the needle forward. Working in your business and not on your business, like concerning yourself and not being able to let the little things go. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in this journey is how to let go. How to let go and give responsibility to other people and allow them to make mistakes so that they can learn from it. If you're the kind of parent, having a team is kind of like being a parent, right? You've got to I don't know what it's like being a parent, but I imagine so. You've got to go ahead and give people responsibilities and let them make their own mistakes so that they can learn from it, instead of, prematurely correcting them and just being like, no, you can't make the mistake. This is what you do. If you can do that, then you do that. But it's more powerful when someone makes the mistake for themselves and then learns from it, right? This is why all the people who are like all the way there, like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they've all made these mistakes. They've made billion-dollar mistakes and they've learned from it. So if you're on the self-help journey, the biggest barrier you come across is overthinking the little things. How to meditate or how to do this. Simply focus on what it is you want, right? In this goal achievement journey, what do you want? What's the goal? Focus on that. That's the deeper principle. Focus on the goal and keep focusing on the goal until a process becomes clear to you. Clarify the goal enough until the process becomes clear to you. When I focus on the goal, I look at, okay, where do I want to take my business? When I got started off, where did I want to take my business? I kind of wanted to have something that gave me financial freedom. I didn't want to have to work a full-time job and be subject to someone else's hours and follow some stipulate rules, right? I wanted to be able to show up whenever I wanted to, do the things that I wanted to do. And I kept focusing on that until some process became clear to me. And then the YouTube channel became clear to me. I had a hunch and an intuition to start it, and I visualized that. Right? So I look at the goal, and once the goal becomes clear, look at the process. Right? What process will get you there? And simply just put one foot in front of the other. Another huge problem people make is they think too much about themselves. The second part to this is the biggest problem is people on this self-help journey think too much about themselves. They're like, am I good enough to do this? What should I do? What should I visualize before I go out and do this? What should I meditate on before I go out and do this? They keep overthinking that stuff, right? And that starts to work against them, because when you overthink it, then you start to sabotage yourself instead of just going out there and doing it. Most of the times I've done well in interviews or anything else. And people who play golf talk about this a lot too. Like Tiger Woods talks about this a lot. He says how he doesn't spend hours on the golf course before he's playing it, but he just does his practice and he just has faith that it will work out. Because what happens is if you keep practicing and doing the same thing over and over again, you start to sabotage yourself. You start to work against yourself. It's kind of it's such a hard analogy to give, but it's like the creativity dies out from it, right? If you were to write an essay for the first time for a class, you'd write a much better essay than if you were to repeat it and try to redo it, right? I don't know if you've ever had it where you wrote an essay on your computer and then it got deleted, it never got a chance to save, and then you try to rewrite it, but it was never the same again. You never felt the same about it again. So it's similar to that. It's very, very similar to that. So let yourself have the element of surprise, because it can bring up creativity and intuition in you, right? So to conclude, don't think less of yourself, just think about yourself less. Immerse yourself in the process and allow yourself to get lost in it. Okay, so the 3 keys I want to leave you off with is, number 1, when you're stuck in paralysis, this analysis paralysis, just do anything. Okay, pick a path and just go towards it, because believe it or not, it's not the action that produces the result. It's the clarity of purpose that you have. The definiteness of purpose that you have. If you have a definiteness of purpose towards your goal, the wrong action will inevitably lead to the right action. You'll inevitably come across the right action anyways. So just begin somewhere. Get momentum. Just get things moving. That's what's needed. Okay? That's number 1. And number 2, when you're uncertain about, your self-capability. Oh, am I good enough to do this? And you start to feel like an imposter. Just simply assume that you are. Just make the blind assumption that you are. Just pretend that you are good enough to do this, that you are good enough to talk about what you want to talk about in your videos, that you are good enough to share what you want to share. Just make that assumption anyways. Just pretend. Pretend you are and just do it. And just see what happens. Be curious to see what happens. Okay? That's how you expand your comfort zone without letting that voice in your head bring you down. So that's number 2. And number 3, this is probably the most important of all, is just becoming a little bit better every single day without comparing yourself to where someone else is on this journey. I know a lot of people who are in this entrepreneurial space, they're very competitive. I'm very competitive. You guys are probably very competitive, and you want to do better than others. But the only way to do better than others is to stop focusing on others. The only way to beat your competition is to stop being focused on competition and start being focused on the thing that gets you results, which is getting your clients results, which is making sure that your clients, your customers are happy and they're doing well. So when you stop being competition obsessed and you start being customer obsessed, which is what Jeff Bezos talks about, then you inevitably, just one day, you start doing better than your competitors, right? And you won't even know it. Like, you'll just lift your head up and be like, oh crap, where have I come? So that's what's supposed to happen. That's that process-oriented haze that everyone dreams of getting into. And maybe I'll talk about that in another video if there's interest. But with that, I conclude this video. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Just a quick recap. Today we talked about the biggest mindset barrier that every single person on the personal development journey goes through. And that is overthinking. Overthinking about themselves and their own capabilities, overthinking about what they should do and how they should do it, right? Instead of just going ahead and doing it. And the keys I left you off with is, number 1, when you're stuck in analysis paralysis, just do anything. Have a definiteness of purpose. Whatever you do now will lead you there. Number 2, when you're uncertain about your self-capability, just assume that you're good enough. Pretend that you're good enough. And just put one foot in front of the other. Do just a little thing, what's necessary, and it will lead you there. And finally, we talked about how you've got to focus on becoming a little bit better every day, instead of focusing on other people and what others are doing and comparing yourself to others. Right? So with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this, if you like this quick conversation style video, if you'd like me to make more of those, if you have any suggestions for future videos that you'd like to see, anything that you're struggling with, anything that you'd like me to make a detailed video about, just let me know in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And also, if you'd like to work closer with us in the Reality Mastery Program, click the link in the description below to apply and schedule a free consultation call with us, and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together. Now, who we typically work with are people who are entrepreneurs and business owners who want to take their businesses to the next level. And what they see is the problem right now isn't a business tactic or strategy. And even if it is a business tactic and strategy, they just can't get it to work for some reason. They have done everything and they just can't seem to get it work. And what they're seeing is that the external manifestation of a crappy business result or not getting the kind of revenue that you want is actually a reflection of the internal state of being that they're in. Okay, and if that sounds like you're seeing that you have these unconscious hidden barriers, this hidden ceiling that you keep hitting, then I ask you to go down there and apply, and let's see if we can help. There's also a free Facebook group for you where you can interact with other people on the same journey as you, and also myself, closer with myself. So if you click on the link in the description below, you'll be able to access the Facebook group as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Peace.